The night began deceptively calm. Off the coast of Odessa, the Black Sea looked like glass under the silver light of the moon. It was a stillness that seemed endless, but war rarely allows peace to linger. Without warning, Russian submarines lurking beneath those same waters unleashed a barrage of Kaliber cruise missiles. They roared upward and skimmed the sea's surface at incredible speed, no more than a few meters above the waves. Dozens of warheads tore toward the Ukrainian shoreline, their programmed paths locked on radar hubs and coastal air bases. This was not a small raid. It was a deliberate preemptive strike, intended to blind Ukraine's defenses and sever Odessa's connection to operations in Crimea. The silence broke in an instant. As the calibers screamed across the horizon, Ukraine answered almost immediately. From a hidden clearing south of Odessa, twin Su-27 fighters burst from the tree line, engines blazing as they climbed into the night sky. Each jet carried long-range cruise missiles designed to punch through hardened defenses. At the same moment, powerful rocket batteries west of the Dnipro lit up, their payloads streaking toward Russian naval sites with precision arcs of fire. Then came the naval drones. From shadowed coves and disguised piers, low-slung unmanned boats powered into the open sea. They hugged the waves at high speed, heading straight for the Russian Black Sea Fleet stationed near Crimea. While missiles soared overhead, these drones rushed from below, aiming for direct collisions with Russian vessels. The effect was devastating. Russian radar ships were struck from above by missiles that shattered their communication arrays. Simultaneously, suicide drones slammed into the sides of support vessels, detonating on impact. In seconds, the carefully arranged fleet was in disarray. Electronic warfare nodes went silent, naval coordination collapsed, and confusion reigned. Over Odessa, the incoming calibers faced their own disaster. Ukrainian Patriot interceptor systems locked onto the Russian missiles mid-flight. At speeds exceeding Mach 4, the interceptors shredded the cruise missiles before they could reach their intended targets. Explosions lit the sky, fragments raining harmlessly into the sea. The result of this exchange was clear. Ukraine had absorbed the initial blow and turned it into an advantage. One Russian frigate erupted in flames off Sevastopol, its ammunition stores detonating in a thunderous chain reaction. Smoke towered into the sky as the rest of the fleet retreated to avoid further losses. The Black Sea, for the moment, belonged to Ukraine, but the battle was only beginning. With Russia's radar networks crippled and its ships retreating, Ukraine seized the chance to strike Crimea. High-altitude drones began releasing compact robotic saboteurs near Yevpatoria. These devices, each the size of a backpack, clamped themselves onto radar towers and signal arrays with magnetic grips. They waited silently, like barnacles, until detonation orders came. Meanwhile, fast-moving landing craft skimmed the water at extraordinary speed, carrying small infantry units mounted on motorbikes. The moment they reached the shore, the bikes surged forward, weaving through trees and broken roadways. Armed with anti-tank weapons and satchel explosives, the troops scattered before Russian artillery could lock onto them. In the skies, first-person view drones swarmed ahead, acting as both scouts and decoys. Russian gunners wasted precious ammunition firing at false targets, while Ukrainian infiltrators struck at genuine weak points. Fuel depots erupted into fireballs, power nodes linked to Russian airfields were destroyed, and key roads were mined to disrupt movement. The final blow came through electronic warfare. Mobile jamming vehicles switched on, flooding Russian networks with static and false signals. For nearly 20 minutes, Russian forces across western Crimea found themselves blind and deaf. No radios, no satellite uplinks, no functioning drone systems. A silence far more dangerous than noise settled across the peninsula. By the time Russian command pieced together what was happening, Ukraine's raiding forces were already gone. Engines roared as motorbikes sped back toward the coast. Landing craft lifted away from the beaches, disappearing under cover of drones. Behind them, comms towers collapsed, supply hubs burned, and radars lay twisted in ruin. It wasn't an invasion, it was a warning. Crimea could be struck whenever Ukraine chose, and Moscow had no guarantee of safety. Yet Ukraine did not stop there. With Russian logistics still reeling, the next objective was deeper inland. Krasnodar, the lifeline of southern Russia's military grid. At dawn, Su-27 fighters streaked across the Sea of Azov under the cover of low clouds. Each carried heavy GPS-guided bombs aimed at runways and helicopter pads at the Krasnodar Air Base. Within seconds of release, the bombs tore through the tarmac. Explosions ripped apart fuel reserves, igniting massive fires. Helicopters flipped from the shock waves, hangars collapsed into steel skeletons, and ammunition stores detonated in rolling eruptions. Surveillance footage captured the devastation in grim detail. On the ground, Ukrainian armored forces surged forward. T-84 Oplots and Leopard 2 A6 tanks thundered down the M29 corridor, crushing Russian defenses that were still scrambling to recover. Infantry teams, mounted on fast bikes, deployed insect-like drone mines along bridges and culverts, setting traps for reinforcements that would never arrive in time. Unseen by most, Ukrainian special forces had infiltrated the area a full day earlier. Hidden in abandoned farms and tree lines, they illuminated Russian positions with laser designators. Precision artillery rained down on repair yards, command posts, and railway hubs. Every strike was methodical, every detonation targeted. Russia scrambled to counter. From the Caucasus, Iskander ballistic missiles were launched toward the Ukrainian advance. Yet before they could strike, Ukrainian patriots intercepted them in mid-air, leaving only falling fire across the fields. Russian fighter jets attempted to intercept the Ukrainian flankers, but electronic warfare zones scrambled their radars. One jet was downed, another retreated. By midday, Krasnodar was burning. Its airbase crippled, its roads cratered, its logistics flow severed. Ukraine had punched a hole into the heart of Russia's southern military network. But even this was not the end. The next target lay further west, a city that was both military stronghold and strategic gateway: Rostov-on-Don. If Krasnodar was the lifeline, Rostov was the lock on the door to Russia's heartland. Breaking it would open a direct path toward Moscow. What followed was the largest coordinated strike of the campaign. Dozens of long-range missiles soared into the sky from hidden Ukrainian launchers. Their warheads rained down on fuel farms, rocket depots, and radar sites. Behind them came swarms of kamikaze drones, darting low through rail yards and industrial corridors, guided live by operators who watched every movement from miles away. In the air, Ukrainian MiG-29s performed bait runs, drawing Russian air defenses into revealing their positions. As soon as anti-air systems fired, their coordinates were relayed back to artillery units, which obliterated them in return. On the ground, tank columns pressed forward, supported by infantry weaving through irrigation ditches and alleys. Electronic warfare trucks jammed Rostov's networks, cutting GPS and radio feeds. Within half an hour, multiple fuel depots exploded in towering flames. Ammunition warehouses detonated in rolling cascades. Anti-air batteries were destroyed before they could stabilize. Russian aircraft remained grounded, unable to coordinate takeoffs. By the time Ukrainian infantry reached Rostov's outskirts, the city's defense grid had collapsed. Screens went blank, command lines fractured, and chaos consumed the district headquarters. Rostov had fallen not to an occupation, but to precision and disruption. Ukraine had torn open the southern gate of Russia. The road north now lay exposed. The fall of Rostov-on-Don was more than a battlefield victory. It was the breaching of a gate long thought unbreakable. For years, Russian command had considered Rostov the anchor of its southern defense, the final shield before any strike could threaten Moscow itself. Now, that shield was shattered. With the city's communication towers silenced, its fuel reserves burning, and its anti-air batteries destroyed, Ukraine had forced open a corridor. The path to the Russian capital no longer seemed impossible. The question was no longer if Ukraine could reach Moscow, but when. The next target was chosen with surgical precision. Tula. The strike on Tula lay just over 100 miles south of Moscow, a city steeped in history and industry. More importantly, it was the beating heart of Russia's weapons production. The sprawling Splav rocket plant and the Tula arms factory were central to supplying artillery shells, multiple launch rocket systems, and guided munitions. To strike Tula was to strike at the very machinery of Russia's war. The assault began 40 hours after Rostov had fallen. In the pre-dawn silence, HIMARS batteries hidden in northeastern Ukraine fired a volley of long-range ATACMS missiles. Each carried half a ton of high explosives, their trajectories preloaded with precision coordinates for Tula's factories. As the missiles streaked toward their targets, another swarm rose into the air. FPV kamikaze drones, launched in groups of 20. They skimmed just above treetops and rail lines, weaving low enough to avoid radar, guided by real-time operators watching through onboard cameras.